Rant is a segment where I take a less structured and humorous approach to look at any topic that crosses my mind relating to the subject of anime and manga. It contains my raw, biased opinion and is for the purpose of creating debate and or discussion, so it shouldn't be taken too seriously. Got that? Great. Now shut up and listen. As an avid anime watcher who's been watching it for many years now, there are some parts of the anime community that I might find kind of annoying. Immature fans of the big three, or as they like to be called, tards, will blindly declare that their anime is the best anime ever, while senselessly flaming anyone who disagrees with them. And yaoi fangirls scare the hell out of me at how they can think any male contact implies a night of ravaging sex. But if there's one thing that's always guaranteed to get my piss into a boil, it's dub haters. It's no secret that one of the most heatedly debated topic in every anime community is subbed anime versus dubbed anime, which will inevitably end with a mutual agreement that it's all down to personal preference. But within this, there's always a small fraction of people who, no matter what you say, no matter how you argue, or no matter how good a dub is, will endlessly bash on the existence of dubs as if the Japanese language is some sort of sacred holy gift from God, while condemning the English language like it's a hellspawn of Satan, despite the fact that it's the language they fucking speak. As long as there has been anime in the West, there have also been dub haters. But while nowadays dub haters consist mostly of weeaboos, elitists, and newbies who think they're hardcore for listening to Japanese, you can't really fault dub haters for existing way back when. Back when anime was just starting out here in the 80s and 90s, it was a new industry where no one really knew what they were doing, so it would be obvious that the quality of English voice actors in comparison to the Japanese ones would be very large, considering they had been doing this for decades, while dubbing companies in the US were just starting out. Back then, dubs were commonly associated with hilariously bad voice acting, incorrectly pronounced names, and voiceovers so boring and monotone that the government could probably experiment with their voice in modern warfare. Since I imagine playing some of these monologues to the enemies would be the real life equivalent of summoning Jigglypuff and telling it to do sing attack. Dubs back then sucked. Yes, there were some that were okay, but any anime watcher could tell you that 99% of the shows just couldn't match up in English. The Japanese language was just better suited for anime and always would be. There would never be any show that would actually be better with an English soundtrack, because anime came from Japan. But then something happened. A certain show came along that would forever change everyone's perspective of dubs. In September 2001, Cowboy Bebop aired for the first time on a new programming block called Adult Swim, and exploded onto American screens, which would help fuel the boom of anime in the early 2000s. With Steve Bloom's ice-cool portrayal of Spike Spiegel, Wendy Lee's fiery depiction of Faye Valentine, the fatherly voice of Bo Billingsley as Jet Black, and Melissa Fan as the ever-so-hyperactive Radical Ed, it showed audiences that dubs could not only match their Japanese counterparts, but damn right exceed it. It was so good in fact that to this day, Cowboy Bebop is still the de facto standard that all modern dubs try to emulate, and the one anime that everyone seems to admit is better in English. From then on, the shows just kept coming. Flagship series like Trigun, Yu Yu Hakusho, Big O, Gundam Wing, Fooly Cooly, and Fullmetal Alchemist appeared on the small screens, which started the first wave of real anime growth in the West. I would always be the dubs that even now, no one really complains about. It's been a decade since then, and what's changed? Well, obviously the quality of dubbing has increased immensely. Anime has become a much larger business, meaning dubbing companies can get better equipment and studios, and a handful of voice actors who started off as amateurs have been able to get experience under their belts and improve. Want to see what I mean? Just look at the difference in quality between the original Ava dubs and the more recent rebuild movies. Although yes, in both versions Shinji still screams like a pussy, thank you Spike Spencer. It's been a long time since I've seen a badly dubbed anime. Yes, there are still many that are inferior to the original soundtrack, but nothing that can be coined as unlistenable, and there's still increasing numbers of dubs which are just as good if not better than the subbed versions. But unfortunately, no matter how great a dub is, there always seems to be haters, despite the fact that they are just as good as these older shows that never get any hate. Don't believe me? Go on any dub trailer of any new show on YouTube and there will always be comments along the line of "Ah, my ears are bleeding," or dubbing my anime with English voices, "Sacre bleu." Okay, that's French, but shut up. And to this day, my video still gets dislikes and comments just because of the fact that I use dubbed clips. So why does this still happen? There have always been sub purists and dub purists depending on personal preferences, which is totally reasonable, but there only ever seems to be hatred towards dubs, which I think is totally uncalled for. What is it about some anime fans that go out of their way to condemn these English voices, and why do they take it so personally when the show they've been following gets licensed and dubbed? Well, here's my theory on the whole thing. One thing I think is a big factor is that with the exponential growth of the internet and instantly available fan-subbed anime, a lot of these people see subbed anime first before dubbing companies can even license the show. Unlike in the old times when most of the exposure came from the English versions on television, nowadays they can just see the Japanese versions on the net way before the dub even comes out, meaning they have an abundance of time to get personally attached to the voices they heard first. So when a dub does come out, no matter how good it is or how well acted it is, if the voices just sound slightly different from their Japanese counterparts, which 90% of the time they are, they'll start a rage fit. This was their show, their characters and their voices. What the hell were these Americans doing bastardizing the voices they got so attached to? At least I think that's what's going on in their heads. To this I would say to them, if they just kept an open mind and actually gave time to get accustomed to the new voices instead of throwing a hissy fit after watching a 1-minute trailer, they might not actually hate it so much, because I think Johnny Young Bosch put it the best. These guys are here as voice actors, not voice imitators. They are there to give their own perspective on a character, which sometimes makes it better and sometimes makes it worse. But you can't really judge that after listening to it for about 20 fucking seconds. Secondly, I don't know where this notion came from, but some fans seem to have the idea in their head that sticking to the Japanese version somehow makes them some kind of superior fan who appreciates the anime more for watching it in its original form. To which I would say, get that fucking head out your ass. There's no tangible hierarchy for anime fandom, and there never will be. Just because someone liked the dubbed version of a show doesn't mean they appreciated it any less, it just means they liked a different version of the same thing you liked. And it certainly doesn't fucking mean you're better than them because you enjoyed it in the original Japanese version. In fact, you may not know this, but many Japanese directors provide some input to the dubs, and if they don't like it, they can have something changed. So, while this may not always work out for the better, you can't really talk about appreciation if the original creators approve of it. These are the two main reasons I think dub haters exist. I know there are other common arguments given by dub haters such as which one's better acted, localization and translation problems, but these generally differ from anime to anime, and there are so many little things to talk about that I can make another entire rant video comparing the aesthetics of subs versus dubs. I will say though that I do find it a bit stupid that most dub haters who harp on about translation problems don't speak a lick of Japanese and rely on amateur fan subs rather than the official professional translations to fuel their arguments. Honestly, I think the existence of dub haters these days have less to do with the quality of dubs and more to do with fans thinking it's some kind of status symbol where sticking to the original soundtrack makes you somehow more of a fan, or people getting too attached to the voices they heard first. So, this is a message to all the dub haters out there. Not all English dubs are bad. If you just get off your high horse and give them a chance, instead of putting your entire judgment on a 30-second YouTube clip, you will see that there are plenty of dubs that are just as good as the sub versions. Anyone with 2 working ears can tell you that dubs aren't as bad as you make it out to be. Some animes are better suited in Japanese, and some animes are better suited in English. But if it's just your personal preference to be reading subtitles, that's fine by me. So, I'm asking you guys now, what do you think of dubbed anime and dub haters? Leave a comment or video response for your chance to get featured in my next rant. Anyway, that's it for me now though, so with your responses to my last rant video, has anime been lacking recently?
So here I am making my first video response to which is Gideon's question, has anime been lacking recently? Now let me get this out of the way right now, these points are going to be extremely greatly biased. And for my regular viewers who are watching this and wondering why I'm talking so fast, I'm mainly making a video saying balls to